Hello and welcome to this All Gone South National League South preview episode. I am joined by Harry of BBC Radio Devon and Darren of the National League South Football Manager Research League. We must say, of course, none of our views represent our employers at all. It's very worth putting in there. Right, I got through that bit. So, where do we start? Obviously, it's going to be a very interesting season. Obviously, I've got a Torquay bias. Harry, you are obviously Torquay, Coventry away and Chesham.
Mhm.
And Darren, you have no bias. So
I'm neutral.
you are neutral. So that's make you perfect for this video. Obviously in the description as well, Darren's done a brilliant season preview a couple of weeks ago. So I'll put that link in the description to watch as well. Aveley FC, great season last year, coming seventh place in the playoffs in their first season in. Made a mockery of Torquay, beat them 2-1 at home ground and drew 2-2. Darren, Aveley, tell me a bit about what you feel like for them this season and what sort of window they've had.
I mean, let's be honest, it's going to be very tough to replicate what they did last year. I think for me, Danny Scopes was manager of the year. I think, even though Yeovil won the league and that they were seventh, what a job coming first season into the National League South. I think it might suffer from a little bit of that second season syndrome that a lot of clubs get. They've lost some key players. Obviously, Odalusi, Vaz, they've moved on. They've had an all right pre-season. I think they've won 3 of 8 games or something like that. But they still scored quite a lot of goals. I know they got Luke Holness in this week,
Yeah.
who was in and out kind of a little bit at Wedding last year. But yeah, in my prediction video, I've obviously predicted them to be around 17th place. And I think that's based on the fact that there's so many strong teams in this league this year.
Yeah, no, they'll do very well. It's always that difficult second season, but they're a brilliant football club. I mean, what they've achieved, and they're a great example, as we'll say, where football clubs have come up from the division below, and you think, oh, they're going to be near the bottom. Like you look at the gap between teams coming up the south and back down last season, but it's not the case
Yeah,
in the south. Teams seem to be have to be
no,
very
not
strong
at
to
all.
get out. But yeah, no, that's Aveley. Aveley, you can take this next one, Harry, if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah, I shall do next one. Bath City, a team which have looked locally for most of their players. Alex Fisher, who's joined from Yeovil,
Yeah, that's
Harvey Wiles
interesting.
Richards, who's joined from Bristol City, but they've also lost 3 key players to Torquay. So it's going to be an interesting season for Jerry Gill's side.
Yeah, Darren, what do you reckon? What do you reckon with Bath?
See, I've predicted them to be in the playoffs again, and obviously that prediction was before Cody Cook left, and they have lost. Jordan Dye for me was one of the standout defenders in the league last year, and he
He
will
looks
definitely
amazing
strengthen
in
Torquay
pre-season.
United.
He looks absolutely
Absolutely,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, brilliant defender. But they have recruited really well, and I think they brought Grimes in. They've still got most of that back line still there. I think the Alves, I think his name, the guy they got, the new winger. I can't remember which club he's come from, but he looks very dangerous. And one of the players they've got, lateral Humphrey Ewers, had a little brief spell in this league with Oxford when he was playing a little cameo role, but had a bit of experience last year in the National League, and I think he'd be a real standout player for them. And they're always a club that are kind of near around them positions, aren't they? So I still think they'll be challenging.
I agree with you on that. I will be surprised if Bath aren't up there. They always seem to be there or thereabouts, as you say. Now, going into the next one, the first of the relegated teams. And for me, I'm so shocked that Boreham Wood got relegated. I mean, they're such an awkward National League club for ages, and it actually shows how strong and consistent throughout the National League is. One off season, and they were down. They've kept a lot of their players this year, haven't they? It looks like, and obviously Nathan Ashmore is one of the best on-league keepers I've seen in the last few years. He is always annoyingly very good against Torquay. Um,
Yeah.
Similar to Dorking, who we will talk about in a bit, they've kind of kept the same team. And now that was a disaster for Torquay last year, but that was a Torquay team which wasn't built well at all. What do you think will happen with Bournemouth this year?
I I think they're definitely going to be challengers, aren't they? I think
Mm.
they were a club last year that weren't even expected to be getting relegated, as you said, and like you say, that squad's kept the same as well. I mean, having players like Enrico Sousa, who's on his day can rip apart at most teams in the National League. Unfortunately, he's probably not as consistent to be able to keep at that level of being in the National League. But yeah, and I did them fourth for my prediction, and I think I'd probably put them a bit higher now. They've signed Abdul Malik, who was released from Millwall. I think 2-3 years ago he was linked with a lot of either Prem teams for a trial or things like that. And we've also got Junior Dixon on loan from Birmingham as well. So they've strengthened so much that squad that already probably have a National League standard. So I'll be very surprised if they're not challenging.
Look at the other players who've come in. Gus Mafuta on loan from
Yeah.
Solihull Moors, a 29-year-old central midfielder. Again, key experience in that central midfield, which Ross Jenkins, who's already got out of this league with Oxford City, I think it was via the playoffs when they went up.
Yeah.
And the good, young, exciting manager, one of the many young, exciting managers in the National League South.
Charlie O'Connor as well. I think it's a top signing. Had a few loans last year. Signed him from Peterborough. He'll be a very strong player.
Yeah, I would put them title favourites for me. They're my title favourites. They're just got to be there or thereabouts. But obviously, you've got to change your whole club mentality when you come down. We look at these things on paper, and I know Yeovil were fine last year. They redid it. But if you've still got, as Torquay found last season, same for Dorking as well, if you've still got that weak mentality and you have a dodgy first 2 results, the season won't look good. But we'll see. I expect them to win the league. I can't lie to you. Right, Harry, Chelmsford. That one?
Next one, Chelmsford. Again, looking at their transfers, another team who've made quite a fair few changes within their squad, losing Luke Jenkins to Aldershot and Odi Alpha to Rochdale alongside Jermaine Francis, who I was quite impressed with when I saw Torquay play Chelmsford last year. But talking of Torquay, Calvin Kalala, who Torquay fans know quite well, a player who can be so dangerous, especially in the National League South, being brought in. Could we see another season where Chelmsford are pushing towards those playoffs again?
Possibly, yeah. Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they'll have a bit more of a tricky season this year. I think with Chelmsford, they're always a side that don't concede many. And they have been clever with the players that they've brought up from the lower leagues through this season. And if you keep Jake Hyde fit, I mean, that's a pretty strong striker for this league. I'd question whether, he'll be able to play a full season, but, time will tell. And they've obviously got Charlie Ruff as well, who just scores goals for fun. I think he was third top goal scorer in the league last year. So yeah, I think like the players you've mentioned, that's a lot of key players to miss from one squad. So I think potentially just outside the playoffs for me, Chelmsford this year. But I don't think they'll struggle by any means.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, Kalala is one of the most gifted players I've seen in a Torquay shirt for many years. So if he's half the player or 80% or the player he was at Torquay, even better, then yeah, they could do well. But as you say, I'm more leaning towards mid-table for them this year just because of the players. It's very difficult. It takes a couple of years to lose that. And that's the problem, especially at this division. When you do lose these players, sometimes these clubs... But they look to have recruited pretty well in that. So, Harry, quite a lot about this one. Actually, Chesham. Tell me about that.
I am Chesham know a fair bit because I'm a hometown boy of Chesham. Of course, they've been pushing for promotion in the last few years from the Southern League. Alex Horne getting involved with the club gave it a little bit more of an emphasis, a bit more of a push. Lost 2 key players in Ricardo German and Zaki Owala, but have recruited well when they look at players in the Southern League. Ashley Lodge and Joe Grant, 2 of the best players at Bracknell the last few years, but also picking up players like Jack Cowley, Nathan Minas and Mitchell Weiss, 3 players who could put in the upper echelons of National League South players who've been consistently performing at this level.
Yeah, no. What do you reckon, Darren? I agree with that.
Yeah, so do I. I think Chesham will be absolutely fine this year, and I see him being kind of Weston-super-Mare from last year. There's a side that won't probably push for the playoffs, but probably be quite comfortable. And I think with Weiss and Minhas, I mean, I know they've lost German, but to sign players of those caliber coming through, and Stevens as well, the guy that was at Barnet. That's a great pickup as well. And the winger they've started is Essam.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so much quality in that squad. I think that'd be fine, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, as you said, these teams that come up, they seem to actually do quite well. Chippenham, mid-table last season. I remember when they played Torquay, I thought they played some decent football actually, and they were solid. As your video said, Darren, it was very much like they were predicted to go down, but actually they were very solid, weren't they? And what are your thoughts about that going into this season?
Chippenham, one of those clubs that always get a bad rep at the start of the season, and they're always predicted to be near the bottom. Probably budget-wise, they probably are, without knowing what it is. But I mean, Gary Horgan always gets the best out of those players, and from what he's done in the last couple of seasons is pretty spectacular compared to the clubs they're up against. I do worry in terms of goals that they could probably score. I think
Yeah.
Last year, I think McClure was the top scorer with 11, and then Faster
Yeah.
Maid, who they've lost this summer, got 9. And after that, you're looking at Bradbury with 6. For me, Kane Bradbury's one of my favourite players in the league. I think
Yeah.
he's a terrific midfielder. But yeah, I do worry where the goals would come from. But
Yeah.
you could probably never tip a Gary Horgan side to go down, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Into the next one, Harry, take us into. Oh, I'll talk about this a
No,
lot
it's
as
your
well.
one.
I'll take this one anyway. Right, so obviously we had Mark White on this pod, and in a couple of weeks into him now, so we had a bunch of amateurs on this pod as well. I told you two about that actually, and it was great. So look forward to that one in a couple of weeks. That'll come out. But Dorking, wow, this is a really, really interesting one. As I said, my views I share with Boreham Wood in the fact that it all depends how they react to it. They had a lot of injuries last season, and the squad right now is fully fit. Mark White said, quoting, said, "It's all about your goals and look at the 4 strikers they have." I mean, if you get Rutherford fit and the player he was before that awful injury he had, obviously brought in Reece Murphy, didn't work at Torquay, but it's worked just about everywhere else at this sort of level. If he stays fit, but it's between them and Boreham Wood and Maidstone for me at the moment. What are your thoughts? First of all, Harry, what are your thoughts on Dorking?
Yeah, I sort of do see similarities in Torquay and Dorking from Torquay last year to
Yeah.
Dorking this year, where hasn't been mass changes. Obviously, there's a few players who've gone. When you look at Harrison Mail, obviously a big one, but I think going with Mr. Hinchelwood up to York was a bit of a no-brainer for him to stay in the National League and stay with the manager who worked with really well with at Worthing. Again, Reece Murphy, a player who did really well at Yeovil last year, but again, you do question the fitness. But I also look at that signing of Brennan Camp, who's a player who I've personally sort of earmarked as he might go to Torquay one day, being
And
sort of in the south.
Norville Williams as well.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
really, really good signing for them as well.
You've got 2 defenders there on the right and the left. So Dorking could be an interesting one this season. Of course, as you spoke with Mark White, interesting tactically as well, how they leave 3 players on the halfway line when they're defending. So again, it'll be interesting to see how Dorking go with this one tactically this season. But I think that there are other similarities, that there is the not much squad change. And I think with Mark White's comments the other day about we're the best team in the league, we're going to win it, it's probably put a bit of the marker on Dorking's back now for the rest of the teams to go, hold
like
on.
Gary Johnson did last year, where Yeovil were being like, oh, actually, now we'll just be there, talk about how we're going to win the league, we'll have some fun. And this first time, I think Mark White, they are like, the pressure's on them. They're not like, oh, they'll always be the plucky underdog for what Dorking have done, of course.
Yeah.
But it's the first time you go and think, no, I'm really backing you now. Darren, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, if Mark White's to believe, the season's done, isn't it? They've already won it. Yeah. I watched the podcast with him, and yeah, it was brilliant. He's always entertaining and great to listen to, isn't he? So Dorking will challenge, no doubt about that. Look at their squad. Taylor, for me, is probably one of the best midfielders in this league. And yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how they cope going down to Truro first game of the season, because as you said, target's on their back.
Yeah, no, totally with you on that one. But surely on paper they look really good. Now the next one's really interesting, actually, Eastbourne. So last season was really weird because I remember at one point I went, "Oh, Torquay, the worst full-time football club in England," and then it suddenly dawned on me, Eastbourne were full-time last season, because I was I wasn't very educated last year. I still have football league syndrome, I think, with Torquay. As Mark was saying, but yeah. So they're full time, and I think it was they have an ex-Torquay player actually coming as manager, and they pulled off a great escape, really. So, Darren, what do you think about Eastbourne this season? Will they?
Yeah,
get better
very bad first year of full-time transition, wasn't it? And they lost a couple of their key players that were their standouts. So Remy went to Dagenham and Gravato went to York. Actually, they were the lowest goal scorers in the league, the teams that stayed in the division. So that's got to be changed. And they brought in Alexander and Pavey, 2 players that know exactly how to score goals in this division. I was very impressed with Yaya Bamba. Saw him play a couple of times. Such a threat. For Eastbourne, I think won 4 of their last 6 to stay up, so they did just stay up in the end. But yeah, a good rebuild, a good summer additions. I think that'd be a lot more comfortable than last year, but I'm still not sure whether they're there to push for playoffs yet. I've got them around mid-table.
Also looking at that Eastbourne signed Musa Diarra, who
Mhm.
he's 34 now, but still a defender who I think a lot of National League South sides would probably choose. I think he's like 6'6", and he scored a volley against Torquay last season when he
Yeah,
was at
he's a
Dartford.
unit.
He's a unit.
Yeah.
He's a strong leader you want to have it there. I think as well, George Alexander's always been one which I sort of scratch my head with, that you see his goal record in National League South. And I was surprised Bromley let him go last year, because for me, okay, because Bromley now Football League is a little bit different, but I was thinking, if Bromley are still going to be in the National League, surely you would try and nurture George Alexander to be your next great. He's found himself in the National League South.
He's
That's right.
around a lot as well, hasn't he? He's had so many different clubs, and you thought, oh, he might just finally settle down now. He's at Chelmsford, and there's another move for him. But full-time
Mm.
football, I guess,
Yeah.
it talks that way.
Now, this is one that would be quite interesting, especially for Torquay fans watching, because we played them at the weekend. Enfield Town. So, obviously, after your prediction video went out, they lost their star striker to Gillingham. I think that was the right one, wasn't it? So, has that affected your views on them, Darren, at all?
I was a bit concerned, actually. They've had a pretty torrid pre-season. I think
Yeah.
not totally disastrous, but yeah, losing their goal scorer that scored 40 goals, as another
Mm.
team in this league we'll talk about in a minute has as well. Yeah, I think Enfield will probably be struggling. I still fancy them to stay up though. I think they've got a good crowd down there. They'll back them quite a lot. And the signings they've made this week, Oyanugu, who's at Dover.
Yeah.
Dover had a torrential season, but
Yeah.
he was one of the standout players, and he was a very good defender. And obviously, Michael Falevi, if they can get him going, there's no reason why he can't
Yeah.
score at least double figures. So I do think they've got a good squad. I think they've brought in that experience of the league with players like Nembard and Anarawusu who have played in this league before. So I still think they'll be okay. But yeah, I think they'll have a torrid season.
Because you sort of preempted my question here about with Michael Falevi joining in, a player who was in Watford's youth academy, has gone around the National League and National
Yeah,
League South the last few years. They lost Marcus Wiley, also lost Jake Cass, who's retired, a player who, especially in the lower leagues, was banging in goals for fun. I think when I was
yeah.
doing some local reporting around here, Jake Cass was at Chalfont St Peter. He scored about 30, 40 goals in one season, I think. Again, he's going to be another loss for Enfield.
Yeah. I think they've got to recruit. They're probably still short on numbers in terms of what they want to bring in. Um, but they won the playoffs last year. They were a strong team. They've been knocking down on the door for a long time to get into this league.
Mm.
And I'm sure they'll add a couple of bits of quality. And if they've got money through the door for that Wiley transfer to
Yeah.
Gillingham, that will only enhance them being able to bring in a couple of key players.
Just Farnborough next, shall we, Sam?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I'm just looking at the transfers they've made this year. Richard Chin, a player who went on loan at Dartford and Bath, impressed me a lot last year. He's coming from Charlton, if I can get my teeth in. Mason Bloomfield returning back again from Hampton and Richmond. Bradshaw, a player who was solid at Beaconsfield. A lot of people are predicting Farnborough could be the dark horses in National League South this season.
I agree with that. I actually, again, sorry for future pod, we've had to stack up recordings just because of holidays, but we've got the Farnborough podcast going next week because we just want to deep dive into some clubs, and we had the All Things Borough podcast on. They're predicting playoffs for themselves this season, and they seem fairly confident. They actually predicted themselves will come higher than Torquay. So that'd be interesting. And we obviously play them on the second game of the season as well. But no, I'm not ruling out at all because I agree with you. I think it's a pretty decent squad. What do you reckon, Darren?
Yeah, 100%. There were, and without being disrespectful, I've also got them above Torquay for next season.
Yeah, most of
Um, I think they'll be very strong next year. I think Richard Chin, as Harry's already said, what a signing that is to get him permanently. And they've got Casey, and they've
Yeah.
also obviously got Mason Bloomfield back at the club after a great spell we had last time, with Joe Haig just playing behind him. And Haig, scored 6 in 12 when they signed him towards the end of last season. And their key player, which was going to be one of the key players this season, Pendlebury.
Yeah.
First player to sign a 2-year deal at the club. And I think all things look towards a good season for Farnborough. I think they'll be very strong this year. They took a while to get going last year. I think Spencer Day was having a little tinker around with his squad because it wasn't quite consistent enough. But I think their form at the end of last season and what they've done this summer, they'll definitely be in those playoffs, I think.
So the next one's a very interesting one because from an outsider's point of view, it doesn't look good for Hampton and Richmond because of stuff going off the pitch. A rumoured massively decreased budget. A lot of people around that club has left over the last year or two. A lot of players, as we just said, have moved on. They came ninth last season. For me, I don't think it will be that high at all this season. Darren, start off with Hampton.
Yeah, I echo what you just said. It looks like it's going to be a difficult season for Hampton. You can't judge Alan Julian yet. You never know. He might have brought in such an amazing squad that they surprise everyone and they're near the top again. But there was a point last year where you thought, do you know what, this club could probably push you over. Maybe I think they were unbeaten in 15 games, the longest unbeaten stretch of anyone last season. But I think they won one of their last 9 games and they just fell off the cliff at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So much transition this summer. I think it's hard to judge where they're going to be. I think I've got them around 17th place. But you wouldn't be surprised if they ended up fighting around that bottom 4 a little bit more. Brought in some players from the lower leagues, which can work out, but also can be a risk as well. And I think one of the key things that they obviously brought Ted Curd in on loan from Chelsea. As their goalkeeper, and he's supposed to be a pretty top talent. So it's a wait and see, I think, for Hampton. More of a put a pin in them.
Yeah, no, good. I mean, Alan Julian, he was a great goalkeeper, but he had 2 shockers, and they're always against Torquay. I saw him twice, so hopefully his team has the same effect when Torquay Bay Hampton. But yeah, no, I mean, I know quite a few people related to that club and fans of the club. I know it's been a tough time for them last season, so hopefully things get sorted there. And yeah, anything to add on that, Harry?
Not so much. Apart from it's one of my favourite grounds in the league to go to. I think I think I'm on holiday when Torquay are playing there this for the season, which I'm a bit annoyed about. But I think we'll move on to Hemel Hempstead. You talk about changes. I'm just looking at using transfer mark to look at some of the transfers
Best
here.
to look, isn't it?
It is brilliant, isn't it?
2 pages.
Transfer marked. I just counted here. They basically brought a new squad in for this season. I spoke about Ricardo German, who was scoring goals for fun in the Southern Premier with Chesham last season. But you also look at Alfie Chiruli, who's been a top player at Billericay the last few years. Geordie Mongoy's come back down south after a spell with South Shields. Also looking at players like Sidney Ibe, who's knocking on the door of Dagenham and Redbridge squad. You've got some very good players being brought in there, but is it going to be enough to push Hemel at the table? Because last season, I don't think many people saw them finish 20th, especially when they went and beat Yeovil and Torquay in the first few games of the season.
Yeah, great. Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, agree. I think the good thing that they've done, the amount of players they brought them in so early, didn't they? I think by the start of June they were done, bar a couple. And that's always good because then you got the pre-season for them to gel. I think it's dangerous sometimes with a massive overhaul, and you're always going to get it at this level with a new manager. I think there'll be higher bottom half, if I'm honest. But strikers to choose from. We got German's goals from last year, like you said. Chiruli's there. Still got Joey Cafano as well.
Yeah,
and McKeown's come in as well. So they've got 4 strikers to choose from. Who know where the back of the net is. So I think they'll be a little bit more comfortable than they were last season. But again, I think they're quite similar to Hampton in the terms of not sure where they'll be yet.
And for Torquay fans, Jamie Sendles-White has also signed for them as well, ex-Torquay player. So there we go. That's interesting from our National League South winning team. Right, so into Hornchurch, newly promoted. First of all, Harry, any thoughts on these?
I would say arguably it's probably quality with what they've brought in, probably one of the best windows. On a side who've just been promoted out, Jazzy Barnabob. Again, Torquay fans will remember that name from, I think, the first relegation for the National League, I want to say, right?
Yeah, on loan, yeah.
Because I started covering Torquay that season, so I don't really remember Jazzy Barnabob too well. But Charlie Adams, a player who was solid at Barnet the years he was there, went to Maidenhead and became a key figure there. You also look at Angelo Balanta, and as well, I think the big one there, Darren McQueen from Ebbsfleet, who can score goals at this level.
They've still got Sean Scannell as well. Oh, that's a name, Christ. Darren, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, agree. I think they'll be comfortable. I think they'll be around mid-table. I think there's a lot of expectation of Hornchurch. So it'd be interesting to see how they go. Obviously, another player that's done it at this level as well as the Akinwade up front as well. So they've got a rich squad, and got 100 points last year, 95 goals. So it'd be interesting to see how they go. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't seen too much of Hornchurch in the last year. Saw a couple of their games, but yeah, on paper they look like they've got a very strong squad for the season.
Maidstone, interesting one. So obviously you had an amazing season with the FA Cup, a truly inspiring FA Cup run. Obviously not Torquay out of it as well. That's great. Well done. But I don't think we've quite got that far, to be really honest with you. But they have lost keeper Lucas Coverlin, who is obviously very, very well known for Torquay United fans. Brought in the keeper Alexandre Jr. I've known that name for a while, football manager. But I'm looking at a team, got Shaq Coulthurst as well, another ex-Torquay, many, many years ago. Where do you reckon Maidstone would be? Because it was, despite all the FA Cup that season, disappointing how they ended the season and didn't get promoted. So what do you think, Harry?
In a league which I think is probably the hardest it's been to predict since I've been following National League South, I would probably say Maidstone are my favourites at the minute. Again, as you said, the goalkeeper situation with no Lucas Coverland, who I would say is the best goalkeeper in National League South last season, purely because I think he's a National League, one of the best. He could be one of the best National League goalkeepers yet alone, National League South. Also, I think another key one is Aaron Blair coming in from Braintree, a player who seemed to be jumping between Dagenham and Braintree every other week or so for the last 2 seasons or so. I thought he would probably say that Braintree become a key figure there with the National League squad. Obviously, now they sign players like John Akinde. You go, okay, yeah, John Akinde is going to be the main man. He's done it in League Two and he's done it in the National League before. But there is impressive business here. Aaron Blair, Charlie Seaman, who they managed to bring in, Temi Awaka joining in from Slough, and Higgs coming from Kent rivals Tonbridge Angels. They've had a very good transfer window in that stay, and I think it'll be very close at the top. But I think Maidstone may just pip it this year.
Fair enough. Darren, thoughts?
Yeah, I've got Maidstone in my prediction as being champions. I think the cup run last year, when you're in this kind of level and having a cup run that long, you're always going to have a little few results in the league that don't quite match up with how this club's gone. Because at the end of the day, while Maidstone are full time, they're playing at this level, and the players are going to be turning their attentions to the cup. Yeah, I mean, they've kept Sam Corn, so they've let go of a few players that I didn't expect to probably go. But yeah, Sam Corn's still there, and obviously, as you mentioned, Jordan Higgs, that's a big signing for them, and obviously Ben Brooks from Chelmsford. I think Maidstone is strong. I think with Coulthurst and Blair up front, they did it for Braintree last year with probably on paper a better midfield behind them at Maidstone. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, Harry, do you want to take us into the next one?
We'll go on to the next one. Salisbury, what was the transfer marked? Not a lot of business. Wilkinson, Brighton, Craig Fassenmaddy coming in. I think the key one really for them is keeping Sido John-Batty, a player who a lot of us will know from his time at Wycombe Wanderers, coming towards the autumn of his career, but a key figure for Salisbury, and also looking scoring 10 goals as well. I think quite a few of them were penalties in that team. But also Noah Coppin, I believe he's still within their ranks. Is that enough for Salisbury to keep them up this year?
Not too sure. Darren?
Yeah, out of all the promoted clubs, I look at Salisbury and probably think they'll struggle a little bit more than the others will. Obviously, Wilkinson's in and John Batty's there. It's a lot of experience at the back, and that is good for this level, having that experience. I think Brian Dutton will probably want a few more bodies in. I think Craig Faster made a great signing.
Yeah.
He scored goals for Chippenham last year and was a big threat for them. But yeah, I've got predictions. I've got Salisbury going down. Hopefully they won't. But yeah, I'm not too sure on Salisbury at the moment. I think they're the weakest that have come up, in my opinion.
And of course, great to see you back as football club at this level as well. It doesn't seem long at all
100%,
that they had all those financial worries and they went. So, what a remarkable comeback that has been for a football club. But yeah, no, okay, fair enough. I do agree with you there, both of you. Right, before we start, we're not writing teams off, so don't start commenting there. But it's just on paper, and that's the fun. But
who knows what happens in the season? Because
exactly,
who thought Torquay were going to finish 18th last
prediction
season?
videos are pointless, aren't they? But this isn't a prediction.
I think everyone had Aveley going down, didn't they? So
yeah, they did. Yeah, but,
maybe Salisbury will be in the playoffs. You'll be fine.
Yeah. So don't worry, Salisbury fans. Right, Slough, 10th place last season, pretty solid.
Yeah.
Very good season actually by what a lot of people predicted. Good core of players. Harry, thoughts?
Yeah, I think you look at the players who've gone out, John Goddard and Tyree Sturridge, both going Deitch going up to a league above, Goddard full-time football. You also look at Nathan Minas, a player who's been scoring goals for fun in the sort of Buckinghamshire area anyway. I think he was at Beaconsfield before he went to Slough, was scoring goals at Beaconsfield, scoring goals at Slough. He's now gone Chesham. There's a few players who've gone out the door, but this is a Scott Davis team. It always does so well. He always gets the best out of his players.
Great, Darren.
Yeah, I've got so much time for Scott Davis. I think he'd be in the top three of the managers of the year last year for me. I think they had a bit of a stinking start, and he kind of galvanised them through. I think they had a nice little cup run as well. I remember him playing Grimsby last season. Slough are a side that's not expected to be knocking on those playoff doors, and they were so close last year. They've got I think Ogbonna will be a lot more of a threat this season, and they've obviously looked at goals to try and replace with Minhas with Sam Evans that have come in. I believe I saw he went off quite early in pre-season yesterday, so hopefully it's not a big injury because you're already missing Matt Lynch at the start of the season. He's quite a key player for them. He's out for a few weeks, but they're 18 games unbeaten at the moment in the league at home, and that's outstanding for this level. So yeah, I think Slough will be fine. I think they'd be a little bit lower than last year. I think I put them about 16th, but yeah, Scott Davis he's done a brilliant job considering he's managing in the middle of the field as well. So it's a tricky job.
Yeah, no, done great. Into the next one. So St Albans, right? So interesting season. I was their manager going to Willstone and then came back because it did not work for whatever reason. Sean Jeffers is still there. And a lot of people, including yourself, Darren, think they'll do well this season. Put a lot of people between them and Farnborough for the dark horses this season. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think St Albans. I think you can forgive their slow start to last year. I think they had that awful playoff final against Oxford City the season before last, where they got absolutely thrashed, and it was done at half time. And I think that played a part into the season for last year. Noble obviously left to go to Wilston, and he's come back, so a bit of that unfinished business. I think you look at it. I mean, Rasulo is such a top player for this level, and you put someone like Josh Castiglione next to him, who they've got from Chelmsford, behind someone like Jeffers and Ken Charles as well. They brought Ken Charles in, and he scores so many goals. And I think you look through their squad. I don't think their pre-season's probably been perfect result-wise, but it's not important. It's pre-season, but yeah, in my prediction, I did have them in third place. I think that's above Boreham Wood. Maybe might flip them a little bit now, but yeah, I think St Albans will be strong this year. I think they'll definitely be up there.
No, I agree. Anything else to add on that, Harry?
You also sort of look at the departures. Mitchell Weiss, obviously a big one, going to Chesham, a lot of experience there. Nathan Carlo's gone to Aveley, linking up with his old manager Danny Scopes because they were playing with each other at Concord. So obviously experienced us there. Kieran Wiltshire, another player who I rate at this level as well, doing the little bit of the North M25 jump around from St Albans to Hemel. So, but then St Albans had been a team who, ever since they came up to the National League South, have been a very solid outfit. Have been a side who've always been there or thereabouts. Not an easy place to go, sort of fixtures. So, and obviously Noble's come back after the spell at Wilson, so it does have the potential to be a good season for.
Yeah, a lot of people's dark horses, aren't they? So Tonbridge, interesting. I think they do really well because I don't imagine they have the biggest budgets, and it came 14th last season. Lost their keeper Henley and Briggs. Of course, we said they went to Maidstone, but still some solid business. Obviously, the link with Charlton helps them. What do you reckon, Darren, this season?
See, the last 2 years, I've put Tonbridge as been one of my dark horses, especially last season. I thought he built quite a good squad in the summer, and I like Jay Saunders. I think he's a very good manager. I got a feeling they might struggle this year. I think players that they've got quality. Jamie Fielding, Hines. I think both of them had left this summer in search of full-time football, but they've both come back since being released and now signed a new deal to be on this year. And if they get the best out of someone like Taylor Maloney, that could be a very good signing. He had a bit of a troubled injury pre-season last year, which kind of slowed his progression at Farnborough and Dartford last year. In my prediction, I've actually got them in the bottom four. It wouldn't surprise me if they ended up being mid-table, but I just feel like They might struggle a little bit this year, if I'm
I know
honest.
we're talking about John Henley going, but maybe it's a good bit of business here. Toby Stewart on loan from Portsmouth.
Yeah,
I think he kept 16 clean sheets in the Southern Premier last season. He's only 19. He's on Portsmouth's books. Could he be? He may not be the replacement for John Henley that Tonbridge fans want, because obviously Henley's been such a key figure in Tonbridge's rise over the last few years. But it's still a good young goalkeeper there who they could lean on this season.
with Stewart, I think the plan with Pompey was to put him into the National League rather than lower down into National League South. I think everyone expected that kind of move for him. So yeah, to get him over the line and into Tonbridge, that Saunders and everyone at Tonbridge done very well to get him in because he's a top goalkeeper.
And ex-Torquay watch, Ryan Hansen didn't quite work out at Torquay, you could say, sadly for him. And Ronnie Nelson, who was on loan for about 2 games last year from Colchester, is also there. Right, Torquay United. And we're going to
Do we
start
know
with
anything about
Darren.
them?
Yeah, I don't know much. I'm going to give it to Darren, actually.
Thanks very much.
I'll give it to Darren to talk about Torquay United because we spoke a lot already on that bit. But Darren, what do you reckon from an outsider's point of view? Don't worry, you're not going to get loads of hate because it's not that way. Just go for what you said. Because if I'm brutally honest with you, as I said, I'm predicting more a playoff push. I'm not putting that pressure on a brand new squad, new regime, not ruling it out. But I think a lot of Torquay fans also like that. You predict us about 7th, 8th. What are your thoughts on an outside perspective?
Yeah, I think similarly to Hampton and teams like that, it is a completely transitional year, isn't it, for Torquay? I think I think the positive factor being back at Playmore will play a big part, and that's why they definitely won't be struggling. And I think obviously that if I'm comparing them and Hampton, the quality that Torquay have brought in compared to them on paper, it's kind of miles away. But the striking options Torquay have got, spoke about Dyer earlier from Bath, top signing. Dreyer was on loan in this league last year, and he fantastic signing. Jay Folston, I've all the year before last when he was at Taunton, he was outstanding. Him and Nick Grimes, and last year at Yeovil, obviously won the league with them. So yeah, I think a playoff push for Torquay. I wouldn't expect them to be challenging for the title. It might all work out, and it does end up like that. But I think that's quite good for the fans to understand that.
Yeah.
That takeover's happened. You've got your club, and it's all about just enjoying it and just having a playoff push. That's what we're in for football for, isn't it? Just try and enjoy their moments.
This might be a question for Sam as well. You spoke earlier about Yeovil last year, sort of treating the season National League South as a bit of a season to have a bit of fun with. Is there something similar for Torquay here, that the pressure's off a little bit this year, that the fans are all in such positive mood because of the takeover? How I kind of sort of see the season as well, it's let's go and have a bit of fun. Let's not go into games fearing that we're gonna lose. Let's go into these games going, we might go and win this game, or if we don't win it, look, we're enjoying the season.
And you've also got the added factor. Obviously, Torquay's a huge club to be in this league, but for Mark White to come out, like we said before about Dorking, and they're the team everyone wants to beat, and you've also got Boreham Wood, who are full time, and Eastbourne are full time. All of a sudden, there's a little bit less pressure that people are coming into a Torquay game to potentially say, do you know what, this is our final this year. We need to be winning this game, and that's not disrespectful to Torquay, but you've got other big full-time teams in this league now, so that could play a part as well.
For me, I think the aim of course is to go for promotion, but in the next 2 years get back in National League. I would prefer Torquay United to just build that properly and go into the National League, because there's a big gap between the South and the National League now. If it means going into the National League and winning the South next season, and maybe losing the playoffs this season, and building a really good squad in the next 2 years to hit the National League with momentum, perfect. If this squad's good enough to win the league now, brilliant. But I think a lot of Torquay fans, we've got to be a bit patient with that. And yeah, I predict us 4th right now. When I was asked the other day, Harry, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think playoffs are a reasonable shout for Torquay. Again, as I said, I think the mentality for Torquay this year should be, let's have a bit of fun with it. Let's go off and enjoy ourselves this season. Let's go and play some exciting football. You look at the front line of goals in Brad Ash, Cody Cook, Seymour, another one of these players who I had in my mind going, he's going to play at Torquay at some point after leaving Exeter. You look at that. You've got Jaden Crosby, a player who a little bit, I think the weight's off his shoulders a little bit. He's come into He's done so well at Mangotsfield. He's come in here. The pressure's not on him. I think if I was Paul Wootton, what I would personally do is maybe not play him earlier on the season, let him get up to grips on how he wants Torquay United to play, and then as the season progresses, integrate him into the squad, integrate him into playing games, so then when you do bring him on, he is ready. He can make that impact into the squad when you've already got 3 players who are very good goal scorers in the National League South. And I think there's been some good recruitment. I talked to my friends at Chippenham Town. They rate Jay Falston quite highly as well. And Omar Musa, another player who I know Torquay fans for the last few years have been sort of having an hour and going, oh, wouldn't mind Omar Musa being at Torquay. So it's going to be an interesting season. I think the pressure's off Torquay. And I think it's a season just to go off and have a bit of fun with.
Truro. Obviously their manager's gone, but they've got a very good replacement, I might point out. I'm really happy to see them back playing in Truro. They haven't made loads of signings yet though, have they? Also they brought in Lavacum for ex-Torquay Watch, come from our academy. Got a few ex-Torquay players actually. Billy Palfrey, that would be a name for certain people. I had about a loan spell where he never played for us many years ago. Obviously still got Tyler Harvey. They've still got that quality, and obviously if they didn't have all the games postponed, they would have finished higher than 16th last season. In my opinion, I thought Paul Wilson did a great job. Great manager, I love him in my club. What do you reckon is going to happen to Truro this season, Darren?
Echo what you just said in terms of it's brilliant that the supporters haven't got to go all the way to Gloucester or Plymouth Parkway to watch a home game anymore. They're back at home, and that sports hub looks great. Yeah, I mean, in my video, I predicted them to go down, but that's due to the fact that they had made barely any signings and their squad was so paper thin. And what surprised me is that 2 or 3 of the signings that they've brought in, they've given 2-year contracts to.
The Northern as well. They come from Northern clubs, apart from Lavacum.
Yeah, so that's interesting, but they're obviously building for the future, and that's kind of where John Askey wants to go, and they're backing him in that. Yeah, Tyler Harvey. I mean, always a threat, isn't he? And Neil up front with him as well. They score goals between them, and I think they'll need them to at it again this season. I think they'll be struggling a little bit because they have lost a couple of key players. But Truro is always a hard place to go to, and it's the furthest pretty much for every club to be going to this season, isn't it? So
yeah, Dorking start there, don't they? I think my wife's delighted about that.
Yeah, Dorking at home first game. Yeah, I think they start Dorking home, Maidstone away, so a nice easy start for them.
2 sort of concerns with Truro is, of course, John Askey's a manager who's had such a good record with the clubs he's been at. Me and Sam speak about this a lot, and a lot of South West football speaks about this a lot. Is if you've ever driven from Torquay to Bristol, you go, that feels a long way. And because I live in North London, you drive from Torquay up to Bristol, going, when are we going to get to Bristol? It feels like we've been driving for about 2 hours now. We're still not hit Bristol. For Truro, it's an hour. Sam will probably correct me here. It's an hour and a half down to
hour 45, something like that. Yeah,
something like that, just for their nearest away game this season. You've got John Askey, a manager who's mainly been based up in the north coming down to southwest, and with Torquay, the last few managerial appointments when they've been made, top of the list has been a southwest predominantly based manager, because when you're at this level, when you look at recruitment, you look at the players who are coming out of the other academies like Bristol City, Bristol Rovers, Bournemouth, clubs like that. Is there a little bit of the worry there that because John Askey is mainly based his career in the north, that being down in the southwest is going to be a bit tricky to understand the local Southwest football, which is spoken a lot about in the Southwest, as well as how much travel there's going to be for Truro? Because I feel at times for Torquay United, at times with some of the younger players, they didn't realise how much travelling actually goes on in a season for Torquay United. For Truro, it's a completely different kettle of fish, because they're just an hour and 40 minutes to Torquay, yet alone coming up to London, which will be 4 or 5 hours drive just to get to London for most of the games.
I agree.
I think that's why it's important. I think that's why it's very important they've kept Stuart Yetton as his number 2. Obviously knows the club, been there years, hasn't he? So, but yeah, agree. It'll be an interesting one to see how he gets on.
I totally say, Harry. But I prefer to take players that are going to definitely settle in your area, which is very important in like the southwest. And if you go to the other end, like Gateshead and like obviously Newcastle's on and all that, I think it's very important, especially when it comes to this level with work. And it could be that obviously, I know life changes now, work you can do remotely, and all that stuff. And I know Truro were training in Exeter, and I've read just online, I don't know if it's true, that they are down by Truro now, I believe. I don't know. Someone please from Truro correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting. You've still got players like obviously Ryan Law, ex-Torquay as well. Right, on to the next one. Welling, 17th place last season. I mean, as your video educated me, Darren, over 40 players last season. But they stayed up, 17th place. I remember when Torquay beat them, I think 5-1, and they had to put their outfielder in goal at one point. I looked at them for they're in real danger here, but they stayed up. And despite losing, I think, an academy graduate to Peterborough, good handful of signings.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Darren?
Yeah, I don't think they'll struggle as much this year. I think when he brought in the experience in the middle of Anthony Grant, people like that last year, it kind of stabilised them a little bit. And Rod Stringer, I think they lost one of their last 10. I think they only conceded 2 in their last 6 games last season. He really did turn them around, because at one point it looked definite that, Welling, Havant and Dover were the 3 definitely gone. But I think they'll be around mid-table this year. I worry up front potentially. I know they got Chukwu in, who has got the ability to potentially score goals, but other than that, I'm not too sure where goals will come from. Obviously, a lot was expected of Walker, who they brought down from Scotland, but he broke his leg the other day, unfortunately, so he's going to miss most of the season. But I think they'll be a lot stronger than last year, and hopefully won't use 48 players this season, because that's an abundance of players, isn't it? Everyone in the south.
I think it's when Mr. Stringer came in, is speaking because Torquay played Welling quite late in the season last year. And when Torquay played Welling, it was seen as a little bit of the 6-pointer at that point. Whoever won that one would basically be safe. And talking to some of the local press at that point, is that Rod Stringer's basically come in, taken out the whole squad and brought in his own squad. Potentially could have, if you did manager of the season for the second half of the season, he could arguably be a candidate for the job he did. Yeah. But then you also look at strikers. Look at Martel Taylor-Crosdale, who was once on Chelsea's books. He went out to the Cumbria Premier, started scoring goals out there. He's obviously been brought back, probably looking for him for goals as well. And to put a Torquay spin on it, also in goal, Reece Lovett, who for a long time with Torquay United. If it was Mark Halstead in goal, you wouldn't complain. If it was Reece Lovett in goal, you probably wouldn't complain either. A player who, as Sam just mentioned, didn't get as many games as I think he probably would have liked to at Torquay.
He needs it. He needs it, in my opinion, because he's a good keeper. He's got a lot of ability, but it was more like, for me, especially at Plainmoor, struggled. Maybe it's like just that nervousness. I'm not too sure, but he needs games this season. But I'm really happy he got a good move.
And he can score goals.
Yeah, no, he's played up front, come on front. So goal scoring.
There we go, goal solution sorted.
Almost there. We've got Weston-super-Mare. That rhymes. Of my only away games last season, and it was the most angriest I've ever been after a football game when Weston-super-Mare completely did talk. It was 3-2, but they completely had. It was an awful day. Where it's really started to show how bad Torquay were at that stage. They had a great season last year, 13th place. Really impressive what they've done. Darren, what do you reckon?
So when I done my first draft for what I wanted to put everyone in a prediction, I had Weston 7th or 8th. I think that what they've recruited this summer is really strong, and I really rate Scott Bartlett. It changed my mind a little bit because they've lost Lloyd Humphreys, and my God, what a player he is! He so deserves a move to the National League. I know there was a few links with even League Two, and I think he'd be fine at Eastleigh, but. Yeah, I mean, they've got people like Dodd and Chamberlain, I think, who normally goes out wide for Taunton. It will probably play a bit more central for Weston from what I've seen. So that's a strong midfield. And up front, they've got that weight from Newport, Ruben Reid still scoring goals, another one of your ex-boys.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. I think I've got them 10th. So I think Weston will have a good season next year. I don't see them struggling whatsoever.
Yeah, no, with that, Ruben Reid actually scored on my first ever Torquay game in 2007 when he was on loan. There's your little fact. We then got relegated like the week after.
It wasn't against Portsmouth, was it?
No, Stockport. Wayne Hempstead was in goal.
Weymouth, yeah, go on to Weymouth. Obviously brought Malachi Linton in permanently from Yeovil. Corey Jordan, a player who I was sort of surprised he went to Gosport Borough in the first place. I thought he was still a good National League South player when he departed. I think the big one for me in this transfer window from Weymouth is bringing in Francis Amati, a player who has been a very good scorer at this level of football in the past. Went up to Scotland, has now come back. Is he going to do enough to make Weymouth a dangerous threat this year.
Lack of goals, Darren. That's the only issue with Weymouth, isn't
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Terrace fans, but I do have you bottom of the league at the moment, unfortunately. Um, I, I, I don't know. Mark Molesley, he's obviously been at Weymouth before, so he knows the club. And like you say, they brought Linton in permanently. They got Pollock in, who was a youth player at Bournemouth.
it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Obviously, Brandon Goodship has done it for Weymouth before, but Francis Amati obviously is the key standout signing. And Billy Terrell's a good goalkeeper as well.
Yes.
Albeit he played for two relegated teams last year, so maybe he might make it a unwanted hat trick. I just struggle with Weymouth. I like a few of their players, Bearwish and people like that, but yeah, I'm struggling to find a case for them to do anything more than struggle next season at the moment.
Also quite like Ezio Torre, who I
Yes,
think he came in January last year. I
a lot
think.
of impact sub business with him, wasn't there? They used
Yeah,
last year, but yeah, I think he's one of the fans' favourites, isn't he? So yeah,
yeah.
they've done well to keep him for another year.
I agree. I mean, with Weymouth, yeah, I love the away day. We've got them Boxing Day as well. And of course, big credit to them. They really helped Torquay when we were in
Mhm.
administration last season. So that won't be forgotten by the club. Yeah, I hope, because I love the away day, Weymouth stay up for me, but it could be a difficult one on paper. But we'll see. That's football. Right, the final one, Worthing. Now, this is a very, very interesting one. Obviously, such a good season. Absolutely obliterated Torquay at Playmore on the first home game of the season last year. Should have been more than three. Came third, obviously lost in the
Mhm.
playoffs. Lost a lot of Ollie Pearce, say no more. And it's very difficult to replace a striker like him. Also lost Felix and Wright. Felix was ex-Torquay. Harry, we'll start with you on this one. Worthing, what do you reckon about them this season?
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't go up because I did the game down their way for Torquay last year, and they were the most impressive side I saw play Torquay.
Mm,
They played Torquay off the park that day, and again, I think they were for Braintree as well. I think there was a bit of the fear at Braintree that they were going to go National League North if they didn't get promoted, which would have
mhm.
been if you're going to go and play teams at North, do it in the National League where you're going to get the money coming
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I think there was a bit of pressure on Braintree to go and win that game. But for Worthing, as you said, Ollie Pearce going, that's massive. But I think Worthing kind of knew that the minute they didn't go up, that Ollie Pearce is probably going to go. He's going to have
Mhm.
suitors elsewhere. Um, but they've still got Danny Cashman, a player
Yeah.
who I think he scored twice in the 4-2 win at Torquay against Torquay at their place. He really impressed me that day as a player who I feel will definitely go on to play National League and Football League going forward. But you've also got Joe Cook, who I think was once at Dorking. Sam Beard's come in from Eastbourne, and another player who I sort of put in the same category as George Alexander, a player who was in the National League, has dropped down to National League South, and Tommy Willard, who I think could be a real danger threat for Worthing this year.
Yeah, Darren, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll probably watch Worthing next year more than others because they're probably the nearest club to me at the moment in this league. I think Pearce doesn't get near 40 goals if he didn't have Danny Cashman last year. I think
Mhm.
totally Danny Cashman is such a key player for them, and for them to keep him, I was worried at one point if they lost Pearce, Felix, and Joe Rye as well. If they lost Cashman as well, I think it would have been a total disaster this year. But they've kept him, and they've also got the youngster Brad Dolligan up front, so he scored 7 in
Yeah.
9 when he came back from his loan. I think he was at Littlehampton on loan at the start of the season, and
Mm.
yeah, he looks a good prospect. But obviously, there's a new manager this year, so will he stick with him? I don't know. Sam Beard, as you mentioned, a very good player. I think they start the season, the first 6 games away from home while they have a bit of groundwork. So I think Hampton started last year with a lot of away games. I think Worthing will be a playoff pushing again. I don't see why not.
And then another inclusion, just looking at the notes here, Chris Haig, a player who you spoke
Yeah.
about Billy Terrell the other year, getting 2 relegations in one season. He managed to get 2 promotions in one
Yes.
season. He
Yeah.
managed to get promoted with Ebbsfleet and Oxford City, both in National League South. So that's another key asset to replace Rocco Reese, who went out, and there was another goalkeeper. I think it was Wright who was there. I think they had a few keepers on loan last year,
They
to
did.
Worthing.
Yeah. I think they were in and out with Pickett Reese and Ball as well, didn't they? So yeah,
Mm.
it's
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Right, well, there it is. So before we end this, we're going to try predictions. Now, I'm rubbish at predictions. Harry also said he would as well. And I mean, I just go off my gut with no football intelligence. And I reckon we'll put the prediction and we could make this as a regular thing based on who's on it. But we're going to go to the opening day. I mean, obviously, the first day of the season is always the most hard to predict. I'm just getting excuses in.
yes.
Hardest to predict. most pointless in some ways because the score's always like ridiculous at times. But we'll give it a go anyway. Right, we'll go for each one. Boreham Wood and Bath. Now, I predicted Boreham Wood to probably be title favourites, but my mind just went Bath's going to win 2-0, and I have no idea why. So I'm going to stick with it. Harry?
You know what? I was going to say 2-0 Bath as well. I think, as I said, Boreham Wood are going to be there and thereabouts this season, but they're playing arguably one of the most consistent teams in the National League South in the last few years or so. As I said before, Jerry Gill is a man who knows this league really well. He's done such a good job at Bath City, and I think Bath City will cause Boreham Wood an opening day headache, and I think they will win that 2-0. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Darren?
I'm actually going to this game on Saturday, so I'm hoping I'm going to sit on the fence and be a nice little fence sitter. I'm going to go 2-2.
Very nice. And again, when we predict these things, I don't want those of Boreham fans to go, I told you so. It's just my mind how it goes. Right. Chippenham and Farnborough. Oof. My gut is saying 2-1 Farnborough. Don't ask me to say why, but I think it was a Farnborough. Yeah, they're looking dark horses this season, and I can start well. Harry?
My good friends at Chippenham are not going to like me for this one. I think Farnborough purely because they've had such an exciting summer. I think they will pit this one. I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but I think that is going to be another 2-0.
Nice. Darren?
I'm going to go against you again. Sorry, boys. So Farnborough didn't like travelling too far last year, and Chippenham do start off well. So I'm just going to go, even though I think Farnborough will be very good this year, I'm going to go for a 1-0 Chippenham Saturday.
Cool. So Eastbourne and Chesham. So Chesham, we said I'm impressed with. I think Chesham will do real well this season. For that reason, I'm predicting 2-0 to Eastbourne. Right, first ever season. Harry?
Yeah, I think Chesham, they got promoted without 3 or 4 games to go, and then from that, it's top of my head, not fall apart a little bit, but in the sense of the league was won. Their foot was off the gas. And then Eastbourne again. We said it's been a good transfer window for them. I think my head was initially saying Chesham, but I think this might be a 2-2 draw.
Nice. Darren?
2-1 Eastbourne.
Very nice, very nice. Right, Hampton and Richmond Borough versus Hornchurch. 1-0. I reckon Hornchurch will dominate the game, go 1-0 up, and then Hampton just equalise. Everyone will be like, "Yeah, I told you so. We'll be fine." So Harry?
I'm going to go the wayside here. I'm going to say Hornchurch are going to win it by 2-0.
Nice. Darren?
Yeah, I think I just don't know what's going to go on at Hampton, do you? So for that reason, I'm just going to go Hornchurch 2-1.
Very nice. Right, Hemel Hempstead versus Salisbury. I didn't actually think about this one. I'm going to go 2-0 Hemel. So it could be a bit of a tricky season for the away team, but Hemel Hempstead, I think they'll improve this season. I know that they've changed a lot, but I think they'll improve. Harry?
My gut says 0-0. I don't know why.
That's
I think
fine.
This is just going to be a 0-0.
That's fine. Go for it. Right, Darren?
I think it'll be low scoring, but I'll just go with a 1-0 Hemel win.
Cool. Slough versus Chelmsford City. Right. I'm going to go for a score draw of 2-2. Harry?
This one, again, I can see where you're coming from. Chelmsford do score goals, but they have been good defensively while Slough are playing at home. I'm going to say 2-1 Chelmsford for this one.
Cool. Darren?
Yeah, I think they're normally a low-scoring game between these two. I think they drew both times last year, if I'm being corrected. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Nice. Right. So the next one is St Albans versus Maidstone. Oh, that's a tough one. That's one of the biggest sort of games, actually, apart from Boreham Wood and Bath, I'd
Cracking
say.
start, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a cracking start. 2 teams predicted near the top. Obviously, dark horses St Albans and Maidstone. I reckon Maidstone. Obviously, you two predicted them top. They'll be near it. I think they'll start well, actually. I think they'll really sort of put a bit of a thing out and they'll win 2-0. That's going to be my prediction. Harry?
I'm going for the entertainment factor here. I think that could. Oh, which one am I going to go for? You know what? I'm going to go St Albans 4, Maidstone 4.
Oh, I hope it's right.
Okay. I'm now going to St Albans Maidstone Saturday.
What do you reckon,
I think St Albans might start a little bit slower, so I think 3-2 Maidstone. I do agree though, Harry. I think there'll be goals in this.
It's going to be a 0-0 after we've said all this, isn't it?
Yeah, it will.
Tonbridge versus Weymouth. 1-1 I'm going for. I think Tonbridge go 1-0 up and Weymouth 3 equalise. That's how I see that one going. Harry?
I said for the last game 4-4. I'm going for 0-0 here.
Nice. Cheerful. Darren?
Going to go for a 1-0 Weymouth win, I think.
Nice. Right. Torquay and Enfield. Oof, there's pressure on this one. I think Torquay will get off to a good start. A little bit worried where all the chances are going to come from at the moment, but also I haven't actually seen Torquay play anyone this level yet. I've only seen Exeter and Plymouth, but I think Torquay will do well. I think they will win 3-1. Harry?
I think Playmore will be bouncing. I think the feel-good factor will be at Playmore. We've obviously my Twitter's a little bit heavier on Torquay stuff. Seeing all the flags and banners which have been produced today, which I see on Twitter, which look fantastic. I think the enjoyment and the feel-good factor at Torquay will push through this one. I think it will finish 3-0 Torquay.
Nice indeed. Darren?
Yeah, I think it'll either be a comfortable afternoon with a good little party atmosphere to get the good feel-good factor back, or it'll be a first minute Enfield go 1-0 up and all of a sudden everyone's quiet. But I'm going to go 2-1 Torquay.
Yeah, no, I do see that. And it would be so Torquay to actually get stuck in that game. And we're like, oh, God.
Wasn't one of the first games after the administration was put through that Torquay? It was the game where I think it was was it Aveley? Did Aveley
and then we drew 2-2.
Oh, yeah, that was it. I thought something like that happened.
Yeah, no, we thought the feel-good factor will come back, and we actually got even worse for a lot of when we went into administration. But we actually have good players and all that now. So, yeah, no offense last season, but it was definitely an unbalanced squad, is one way of putting it. Right, Truro versus Dorking, a very big away trip, and my wife say Truro get a result there, then Dorking in pressure. But I think Dorking will come out on top, and they will win narrowly 2-1. Harry?
Yeah, as I say, I think I'm quite happy to see this one on the opening day of the season, going down to Cornwall in August is, I think, on the top of a lot of people's lists. Maybe Bank Holiday also might have been even better to go down to Truro for the weekend. I think because they're happy to get this one out of the way, I think they'll be looking forward to this season. But then also, I think there might be a little bit with Truro similar to Torquay. It's the first game back in Cornwall after so long away. There might be a bit of the party. The feel-good factors in there. I think Dorking will just edge that one 2-1 purely because of the feel-good factor back at Truro.
Yeah, fair enough, Darren.
I think Truro started last year, didn't they, with a 5-2 win over Welling, and I think Yeovil went to Hemel and lost first game of the season. So I think Truro might make it difficult, and I can see a score draw 1-1, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, very true. Welling versus Aveley. That's difficult. 2-2. I'm going 2-2 actually in that one. Good game, I reckon. Harry?
I think it will be a draw as well. I don't see as many goals in it, so I will say 1-1.
Perfect. Darren?
I'm going to agree and say 2-2.
Very nice, very nice. Right, the final game to predict. Thank you, both of you. It's been great. Weston-super-Mare versus Worthing. That is an interesting one. Obviously, we don't really know what Worthing can be like this season, but I'm still predicting they're going to do well. Even though I predict Weston-super-Mare will do well as well, I'm actually going to say Worthing will win 3-1 in that one. Harry, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think very similar. I think maybe Danny Cashman gets 1 or 2 goals in that one as well if he's fit enough to start that one. And I think Worthing will be another team who'll be up there. So I will go for 3-1 to Worthing.
Darren?
Yeah, I can see Weston winning it. Like you say, first game of the season, you just don't know, do you? But I'll go for a little bit closer, 2-1 Worthing.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much, you two. It's an absolutely brilliant first time we've done it for the 3 of us with the season preview. This is the It's All Gone South podcast. We've got a couple of interviews lined up the next couple of weeks, but also we'll work out. Let us know what you think. Let us know your predictions as well for the season and for the first game of the season. And thank you so much for watching me. Thank you so much for joining me, you two, and we'll see you in a bit.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Bye.